Hello and welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. Today we are going to talk about management of water quality in aquaculture practice. Aquaculture practice, what is aquaculture practice and what is the significance of aquaculture practice, that we have talked about a lot in many of our lectures. And in fact, there were many of the lectures which were dedicated to this thing only. Uh, what we should know, that this is in fact just giving you the background. I will not elaborate it too much, but just to give you the background, this is the fastest growing food production sector, and its sustainable growth is vital to food security, that we have discussed in quite detail. Ecosystem health, uninterrupted natural resource utilization, biodiversity conservation, and socio-economic resilience. So whether its importance, being fastest food production sector, that we have discussed in quite detail, that it's showing very good growth rate. If one production system is not giving you very good result, then we can come up with some other kind of technology, especially the advancement in technologies that has made not only helped it to remain as one of the best food production systems, but also to make it sustainable. By, say, for example, in case of freshwater systems, in fact, we are not having enough fresh water for different purposes of different uses in our life. So when we are not having sufficient water for other uses, essential uses, how can we spare fresh water for aquaculture? So that has been taken care of in a very good manner by developing new kind of culture systems, where the same water again and again can be used by taking care of good water quality by filtration and other things in recirculatory aquaculture system, in biofloc culture system. We have developed such kind of techniques where we can take care of the water quality as well as the quantity of the water, and of course the health of the aquatic organisms which we are culturing. It is vital to food security, that we have discussed a lot, that it's not only providing food, I mean contributing in terms of more quantity of food, but more diversity of food, and even accessibility is also ensured by providing people with employment opportunities in aquaculture, especially to those who are marginalized, who live in remote areas. So that kind of thing is also offered by um, the aquaculture sector. Ecosystem health. Ecosystem health, we have talked a lot on sustainability and eco-friendly aquaculture, that if we take care of the effluents, the kind of inputs that we are putting into the system, if we treat the effluents, or if we take care of the inputs which are being dumped into the system, then the system can be eco-friendly and will be sustainable for a long period of time. Uninterrupted natural resource utilization, we should have rational resource utilization, that we have talked about earlier. Biodiversity conservation, if we will continue to adopt such kind of scientific approaches that we have discussed, biodiversity conservation will also not be adversely affected, and socio-economic resilience of the system will be there. However, there are concerns about the impacts of aquaculture activities on the environment and natural resources that we have discussed, such as habitat destruction. I have told you in detail, we have taken in-depth information of how it can be done in our previous lecture on sustainable development, sustainable aquaculture. Exploitation of wild fish stocks, especially in the capture, we have discussed mostly here the capture culture fisheries, or aquaculture. In fact, capture fisheries we have not discussed too much, although I have given you some references regarding that, in order to just compare the capture and culture, and why we should go for culture. When we are having so much of huge natural resources, then why we go for culture? We can continue to capture fishes from the natural resources, but that has shown the kind of population decline of many capture fishes, and fisheries of many useful resources, aquatic resources, have shown collapse, fishery collapse. Fish meal, fish oil requirements and waste disposal. Because of this, also the sustainability sometimes comes into question. Different aquaculture systems like extensive, semi-intensive, intensive, types of systems, closed or semi-open or open, different cultured species, different kind of candidate species which are being cultured, and stocking densities can generate different environmental impacts. It has been written here in just one sentence, but I have elaborated it to you in entire lecture that how different systems can contribute. It's not like people say that only intensive aquaculture can cause harm to the environment, but it's not like that. Even going for extensive in some pristine environment, if you are going for extensive culture, when you as you say that you are going to culture, that means you are going to have human interference in the natural system. As soon as there will be any human interference, the environment is to be affected one way or the other, directly or indirectly. The extent of damage, the extent of alteration in its all the physicochemical parameters, that may vary, but there will be some kind of impact on that environment. So, whether you are going for extensive, semi-intensive or intensive, you are going to have an impact on the environment. Types of system, closed, semi-open, open, different cultured species, what kind of species. For example, I gave you example of some carnivorous fishes. I have given you example of these crustaceans, prawns, that how different species can generate different kind of problems of in the environment. So their feeding behavior, their many things are there, and their food requirement and feeding habit. All these things can contribute to the adverse impact on the environment. Environmental impacts can occur through three different processes, such as consumption of natural resources, culture procedures and practices, and generation of waste. So, environmental impact can be through processes like consumption of natural resources. If you are consuming natural resources, that means you are taking it from the nature. And what is the process of collecting or taking it from the nature, and what kind of impact of the population of that resource in the nature is there, and how that is impacted after you have extracted some of the resource for your own use. Culture procedures, what kind of culture procedures or practices you are adopting. I have given you examples of like when people were doing coastal aquaculture of shrimps, high valued shrimps. What they did after the culture was over, they put a lot of seed in a defined area, high stocking density culture they did. High quantity of food and other inputs were there in the pond, and ultimately when that was to be harvested, that used water was released as such in the surrounding environment. So, that kind of things are very bad for the environment. And generation of waste, of course. I told you again, I will give you the example of prawn, that how much waste was generated by culturing the prawns. Each ecosystem has its own carrying capacity that we understand as a student of biology, and working within the limit is crucial to avoid negative impacts. That is why we need to have a thorough and regular assessment of the biodiversity, the aquatic diversity of a system, and understand that what is the carrying capacity of that particular system, that particular region, that particular area, and whatever species you are targeting, what is the contribution or share of that species in the broader ecosystem, and accordingly you have to undertake your steps, whether to fish it out or whatever kind of thing you are going to do, that these biological parameters should be taken into consideration. All their age structure also, the population structure, the age structure, all the basic biological parameters, they need to be understood if we wish to preserve these precious resources. The transition of traditional culture practices to an intensified culture system involves increased waste that requires proper treatment to avoid pollution and deleterious impacts on the environment that we have discussed a lot. With the high demand for aquaculture products, more farms are opting for intensive culture system that we know, which tend to affect the environment more than extensive and semi-intensive systems. Of course, when we move towards intensification, then the damage to the environment also increases accordingly due to large amounts of waste containing toxins, drugs and chemicals in the farmer system. In aquaculture production systems, poor water quality due to accumulation of toxic compounds including ammonia, nitrite and hydrogen sulfide, together with low dissolved oxygen, hypoxic conditions, harmful algal blooms and pathogenic bacteria can greatly affect the fish health through bacterial infections, poor growth and stress, rendering them less tolerant to handling. The problem is here. Whether we are more concerned about the environment or not, but if we go on increasing the stocking density, or you can say the harvesting more biomass from the same area or same volume of water, then that becomes a problem, because the fishes live in water, and you for meeting their food requirement, for taking them out of stress by or giving them prophylactic treatment, or if you observe some kind of disease occurrence, then giving them some kind of treatment, everything has to be done in water. That means you are going to add more inputs from outside into the water, and that will alter the chemistry of the water and the characteristic of the water. So, if those altered characteristics or altered water quality parameters are not within the optimal range of the fish or any species being cultivated or farmed in that system, then your culture practice is going to be adversely impacted, and it will not be economically viable in that case. Then it has been reported that approximately 27% to 49% of the feeds supplied to aquaculture production ponds are converted to fish products, while the rest goes to waste that are usually discharged into the nearby water bodies. Only 27 to 49%, or you can say not more than 50% is converted to fish product, fish or biomass you can say, and rest is usually discharged into the nearby water bodies, and eventually from one of the factors, that is one of the factors that form one of the factors that negatively impact the aquaculture value chain. And you may not realize in the beginning, but that is going to be detrimental for the economic viability of your culture practice. Water treatment technologies that are technically feasible, environmentally promising and financially profitable can be integrated into different aquaculture systems to make aquaculture industry a sustainable sector and contributes to the circular economy. In fact, managing the water quality or keeping the environment conducive for the survival, growth and maturation of the target fish species or aquatic species that you are culturing, that is the most important aspect of the culture practice. Aquaculture wastes can be recovered and recycled using various technologies. Now, there are different kind of technologies that we can integrate to the aquaculture practice, such as bioremediation. You can go for bioremediation, you can go for aeration, biocoagulation and biofiltration applied in various production systems such as RAS that we have talked about, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture IMTA and aquaponics. So, there are many advancements and good advancements in the culture technologies of aquatic organisms, and they are giving very good results as far as production as well as these systems being eco-friendly and making the system economically viable and sustainable. The practice of semi-intensive and intensive culture system usually results in pollution of the culture water from uneaten food and waste products of cultured organisms that we know, as organic materials and their derivatives accumulate and exceed safe levels, they become a liability to water quality maintenance. Therefore, water quality management is one of the most important culture practices, especially in semi-intensive culture systems, semi-intensive and intensive culture systems. Now, we have already studied about what are different water quality parameters, in what range they are needed in aquaculture practices in fresh water as well as in marine environment. Now, what should be done in order to manage these parameters, that we can very quickly go through this, that if dissolved oxygen and its management, I mean, what can we do for dissolved oxygen fluctuations and how we can manage that. Mechanical aeration, one of the most well-founded methods to increase the oxygen content of water is the use of aeration devices. For effective management of oxygen regimes in aquaculture ponds, following forms of mechanical aerators are available. Examples: paddle wheels, agitators, vertical sprayers, impellers, airlift pumps, Venturia pumps, liquid oxygen injection, air diffusers. So, these are the systems, aerators, which can be used to increase the dissolved oxygen content. And artificial aeration can surprisingly cause a slight decrease in dissolved oxygen levels while increasing biochemical oxygen demand and chemical oxygen demand. This suggests that an enhanced mineralization process that leads to greater nutrient concentration, indicating more active biological decomposition in the aerated water systems compared to non-aerated conditions. The major benefit derived from the application of aeration were the high primary productivity of the phytoplankton, greater population of zooplankton, and increased fish production. Bottom raking can be done. Physical scoring of bottom sediments would perhaps increase the nutrient level of water, help release of obnoxious gases to overlying water, and thereby contribute to the ecosystem health or the aquaculture ponds. Leaching, draining, drying treatment. Repeated leaching, draining, drying, filling treatment help to mitigate the problem of acidic pH of both soil and water, thus increase the productivity of pond. Reduction of freeboard. Reduction of the freeboard area by filling ponds up to top and excavation above the depth of heavy acid soils are other measures to cope with the acidic water. Chemical methods are also there. Lime, calcium hydroxide may be used as a liming material in fish ponds and as a sterilant for bottom mud. We have discussed the application of lime earlier also. Quick lime, hydrated lime, limestone, dolomite are used in aquaculture ponds quite commonly. Potassium permanganate is strong oxidizing agent that reacts with organic matter and reduced inorganic substances in water. It is used for disinfections, parasite and disease treatments of fish, algal control, detoxification of pesticides, removal of reduced inorganic substances, reduction of COD of water, and alleviation of dissolved oxygen in ponds. So, that can also be used. Then we have hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide serves multiple purposes, functioning as an oxidizing agent, sterilizer, and an effective method for reducing chemical and biochemical oxygen demand. When 0.05 milliliter of 6% hydrogen peroxide is introduced into 1 liter of water, it generates approximately 1.5 milligram of oxygen. That is how effective it is. Ferric sulfate could effectively be used to reduce the turbidity of water. Biological methods, use of probiotics has become popular for improving water quality, especially from aquaculture effluents. In wastewater system, the algae bacteria association has been claimed to reduce the coliform group of bacteria by 95% or more, oxygen demand by 70 to 90%, total suspended matter by 80 to 85%. Microbial consortium using a large number of microbes is being developed worldwide to improve the efficacy of the nutrient removal capacity of the system. Wastewater aquaculture, one of the low-cost management strategies used for reclamation and reuse of sewage-fed water is wastewater-fed aquaculture. The results of a study showed significantly high reclamation efficiency. The facultative pond or the waste stabilization system has been proved to be most dynamic in nature, registering 22 to 69% of the total reclamation efficiency. In fact, I can just share you one more instance that when I was working for my doctoral thesis at Central Institute of Fisheries Education, I conducted one experiment. I was conducting my experiments at Rohtak Center in Haryana of CIFE, Mumbai. So what we did, there was one stocking pond where I was keeping all the broodstock. I was working on the broodstock nutrition of the fishes. So one fine morning, it was in the late summer and monsoon months. One fine morning, there was cloudy condition, and very early in the morning, some fishermen came to my place, and they asked me to come as soon as possible to the stocking pond, because fishes are, they're just going upside down and they are at the surface. So when I went there, I saw that almost entire water surface of that stocking pond was having fishes upside down. So there were few fishermen available there. So I just asked them to, okay, go through. They were just trying their, way to control this, but nobody was having any clue. So what we decided to, go for increasing dissolved oxygen content, because early in the morning, especially in the cloudy days, we have studied that dissolved oxygen concentration is at its minimum. So we thought that these fishes are in hypoxic condition, and fishes were either upside down or they were just trying to gulp air, atmospheric air. So what we did, we simply tried to remove the fishes from their place, then agitated the water, and then used some wooden sticks and other things to just splash water surface in order to increase the dissolved oxygen content, and used KMNO4 dilute solution also and sprayed it, and we were able to control that condition with very few mortality. Very less mortality was there, and ultimately when oxygen concentration was to the limit where fishes can survive, they just were normal. By maybe 1 hour or so, they were showing their normal behavior. So if you are not having aerators, if you are not having anything, then you will have to think of the ways how to increase the dissolved oxygen content, how atmospheric oxygen can be dissolved into the water. If you splash it, if you agitate it, then they can be that can be very useful. You can ask some people to just start swimming into the pond. That will also increase the dissolved oxygen content when they splash and move from one place to the other. Obnoxious gases will also come out. Algal control by herbivorous fishes. Some herbivorous fishes may be used to control algal bloom from the pond system. Some blue-green algae are toxic due to their secretion of more than 60 blue-green toxins grouped under neurotoxins, hepatotoxins, cytotoxins, contact irritants, and gastrointestinal toxins. Among the cyprinids, silver carp has been demonstrated to be the most promising candidate, and therefore has been exclusively used to control algal blooms in many eutrophic lakes and reservoirs. This is most significant because it will replace the use of chemical algicide, which is highly toxic to the environment. So if biological control is available, then it should always be the preferred choice. Ammonia and its management. High ammonia levels can arise from overfeeding. We know that we should not provide food more than required. Protein-rich excess feed decays to liberate toxic ammonia gas, which in conjunction with the fish's excreted ammonia may accumulate to dangerously high levels under certain conditions. Fortunately, ammonia concentrations are partially curbed or buffered by conversion to non-toxic nitrate and by nitrifying bacteria. Additionally, ammonia is converted from toxic ammonia to non-toxic ammonia, ammonium ion, at pH below 8. As ammonia concentrations in water increases, ammonia excretion by aquatic organisms diminishes and levels of ammonia in blood and other tissues increases. The result is an elevation of blood pH and adverse effects on enzyme catalyzed reactions and membrane stability. Ammonia increases oxygen consumption by tissues, damages gills, and reduces the ability of blood to transport oxygen. Just think of how this ammonia is causing this havoc. Just you wanted to feed your fishes more, you wanted to offer them more food, and you put more food than what they can consume, or your food quality was not that good and there was more leftover food and nutrient leaching was there. Ultimately, more organic load was there and more ammonia was there, and instead of getting any benefit, your input cost was also increased by putting in more food, and that is also detrimental not only to the environment but your fish also. Ammonia exists in water in both ionized and unionized forms. Unionized ammonia is considered more toxic than ionized form due to its ability to diffuse readily across cell membrane. Methods which improve the dissolved oxygen levels in pond reduce the ammonia level. So, if you are using the methods which are going to improve the dissolved oxygen levels in pond, then ammonia level will also be taken care of. So, that is why more often we say that you can carry out fishing maybe fortnightly or so, or you can just use nets. Don't catch the fish. Just use the upper rope of the dragnet, and don't hold the lower rope of the dragnet, and get it from one side of the pond to the other side. So, the water is agitated and obnoxious gases are also released. So, that is good. Hydrogen sulfide and its management. Under anaerobic conditions, certain heterotrophic bacteria can cause sulfate and other oxidized sulfur compounds as terminal electron acceptors in metabolism and excrete sulfide. In water, hydrogen sulfide exists in unionized and ionized forms. Only the unionized form is considered toxic to aquatic organisms. Unionized H2S concentration is dependent on pH, temperature and salinity, and is mainly affected by the variation in pH. Hydrogen sulfide gas, which is frequently detected in the mud of the ponds, could poison the fish. But so long as the surface layer of the mud is oxidizing, this very poisonous gas, deadly to fish, could not possibly diffuse into the water. If a free circulation of the pond water is impeded, as for example by dense vegetation, then the smell of the gas appears. Clearance of vegetation will minimize the chances of H2S toxicity in this case. So, you will have to keep in mind that it's not like if you are having vegetation, then you say that okay, it's good to have greeneries in the pond, and you will have to take care the environment according to its own demands. Alkalinity and its management. In recirculatory systems where photosynthesis is practically not existent, a good buffering capacity can prevent excessive buildup of carbon dioxide and lethal decreases in pH. It is recommended that the fish farmer maintain total alkalinity values of at least 20 ppm. For catfish production, higher alkalinities of at least 80 to 100 ppm are suggested for hybrid striped bass. For water supplies that have naturally low alkalinities, agricultural lime can be added to increase the buffering capacity of the water. Major problems and mitigating measures in water supply, water quality management in aquaculture production systems. This is listed at one place. You can go through this, that how this is going to impact and what are the problems in what kind of aquaculture systems. For example, I can just give you one or two examples. Nutrients from problems, nutrients from excess feeds and metabolites, phosphorus and nitrogen. Eutrophication occurs. Aquaculture system, intensive aquaculture system with high stocking rates generate large amount of waste, liquid and solid waste. Mitigating measures, integrated restorative aquaculture, use of combined species of mollusks and seaweeds, water treatment plants, removal of soluble reactive phosphorus by adsorption to particulate organic matter, installation of seaweed farms, improved water quality, improved aquaculture benefits, production and enhanced sustainability, and these are the references. And likewise, microplastics toxic to living organisms, mariculture, rafts, cages and net and source of microplastics. So, monitoring microplastic concentration in water bodies and aquaculture system, reduce the use of plastics. So, there are different ways to take care of the environment by taking care of the water quality the ambient environment, which is the ambient environment of the species that you are culturing. Now, very quickly, I have taken from some source, the reference is given. Water quality parameters, problems and corrective methods. What are different type of problems and what kind of corrective measures can be taken? For example, salinity. A problem is that salinity may fluctuate, dilution or evaporation, that any reason may be there. Effect, it will cause stress, because if salinity will change, then that will impact the physiology of the fish. Optimal level 0.01 to 1 ppt for freshwater species and 20 to 35 ppt for euryhaline species. Corrective measures, water exchange can be done, and you can adjust the salinity to the desired level or desired range, this is the visible indication that hyperactivity of mucus on the body. You can dissolved oxygen, I will just read few of them. Dissolved oxygen, hypoxia may develop, high organic matter load, plankton blooms, overstocking, overfeeding may be there, mortality or lethargy you can notice, 4 to 5 milligram per liter for warm water, that is the optimum level fishes, and 5 to 6 milligram per liter for cold water fishes. You should not try to get DO down from this. I often say that not less than 5 ppm should be accepted to a farmer, so that fishes are safe. And when they are in good DO water, then they show very good growth rate also. Aeration and water aeration or water exchange you can do. The gasping at the surface, what I was just discussing with you, that happened with my experiment. Mucus accumulation on gills, and likewise regarding CO2, ammonia, nitrite, hydrogen sulfide, pH. So, any kind of problem if occurs, then go for the optimal range and go for the specific corrective measure to control that water quality parameter within the defined optimal range. So, that is all in this lecture. Thank you very much.